Michael Morales Torres para Lucha Libre Online, la marca número 1 de Pro Wrestling y Combat Sports en el mundo. Mi invitado especial, el flamante campeón de la División X de Impact Wrestling, Trey Miguel, llega aquí nuevamente a Lucha Libre Online. Trey, man, it is an absolute honor to have you back here at Lucha Libre Online. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Still popping and cracking a little bit from the weekend, but we're recovering. How are you?
All good here in Puerto Rico, man. Thank you for asking. And you had a huge weekend. You had a huge certain last days, and a title was involved in that situation. Let's go back a little bit to Overdrive. You were against Taurus, Black Taurus, in the finals match for that tournament to crown the new X Division champion. Trey Miguel got that huge W, took the title home. First, and most importantly, how do you felt conquering back that X Division title that you once held, and you have the opportunity to create history again with that title?
So it's weird that you asked that. That was one of the first questions that was asked to me in an interview right after I got to the back after the match. And as weird of an answer as it might be, I responded by saying that it feels like the championship has never left me. It's weird, like the moment it was back in my lap and I was looking down at it, just like unwrapping my wrist tape. Like it just dawned. It was like seeing an old friend. It really was. You know what I mean? Like how you get back to exactly where you left off. It feels like no time has passed in between, really. It felt exactly like that. And I haven't had it for maybe like 6 months or something like that. But yeah, it was a really weird feeling. It feels good to have it back, though. It's my favorite championship in all of pro wrestling. So it means a lot to me to be able to hold it again and to now be a 2-time X Division champion.
At the other side of the ring, a fellow Latino, a Mexican to be specific, Black Taurus, was on the other side. Tough opponent, hell of a combat. How was working with Black Taurus to create that magic you both created that night in the ring?
So this was the very first time Black Taurus and I had ever had a singles match. We've only ever been in matches where it's a multi-man, so the amount of interaction that we've had has always been minimal. But we've always had a really good chemistry with one another in the ring, in my own opinion. So it was a match that going into it, I had a lot of wonders, like, man, what's this going to be like? We have a good amount of time to fill, and we got out there, and everything went better than I could have thought. I didn't have a single low expectation. I had very high expectations for the match. Taurus is an amazing wrestler, an amazing luchador. For his size and strength and build, like, he's one of the most agile dudes I've ever been in the ring with. And it was a very pleasant surprise. And like, to my surprise, like, while we're out there, I hear the fans and stuff like that. They're loud. And the match was like 70% Black Taurus fans and 30%. It was just like they were going nuts for him the entire time, and it's deserving. He really is an awesome addition to Impact Wrestling and all of pro wrestling, honestly.
Option C, apparently it's a popular thing inside Impact Wrestling. As the current holder of the X Division champion, we saw what happened to the previous champion, Frankie Kazarian. He decided to exercise his option, just like Josh Alexander did at a certain point of his career too. Is option C something that Trey Miguel evaluates into his future, or do you just want to elevate that X Division title to the maximum you can, as you did in your prior title reign?
I got two ideas. One, why has no one ever tried to just win the world championship and keep the X Division belt at the same time? Why do I have to cash in one to receive the other? Why not hold on to this championship and blow every other X Division wrestler out of the water until there's no competition left? Decide, you know what? Fine, I'm taking the belt with me. And then just pull up on the bigger homies. I I don't understand why one has to cost me the other. If I ever decide I want the World Impact Championship, I'm not about to spend my championship to get it. I'm going for both, and I'm going to be the first to have both. That's history. What? Come on, that's an idea right there. I don't know why no one's ever had it.
the title itself is valuable. It's extremely valuable. Well, the toppest athletes inside this industry, both retired and active, have held that title, including people like AJ Styles, for example, Samoa Joe, Kurt freaking Angle. Like every single person that's made a name inside this industry has held that title around their waist. For you as current title holder or as a current champion, how important it's the value of this belt? Yes, you mentioned that you was like a reunion, like, you know, the title never was away from you, but the value of the title itself, how valuable is for Trey Miguel as an athlete?
I mean, it's priceless. It that is the championship that represents the division or the style of wrestling that made me really want to do this. Everyone wants to be a pro wrestler when they're a kid and they're a fan of it. And you know what I mean? You probably mold yourself after your favorite that you watch on TV. I remember when I was 10 and 11 years old, John Cena was my favorite wrestler. And I thought that, oh, I'm going to be like this guy. I'm going to do things the exact same way. And then you get into the business and then you see the way that you don't physically add up to what they physically are, and plans change. And so the moment I was introduced to it, the X Division that is what sold me on, you know, what I'm going to do with what I got. And this is the epitome of it. So that belt really does represent it, to me. That represents me even wanting to do this, like at a serious level. So it really does hold a very high like position and materialistic things that it's most materialistic item like I hold the most value with. It's nothing means more than that I own. That's a physical thing. Yeah.
2 years ago, and you made a post about this, 3 young kids inside the wrestling industry, especially with Impact Wrestling, put a pause into their group, into their stable to pursue different ventures. We know Wesley is currently with the WWE. Desmond Xavier at this point. Zach Wentz is around the world traveling and doing a lot of things. You are with Impact Wrestling and you are the current X Division champion. 2 years ago, it doesn't seem like a lot of time, but it's over 600 plus days. It's a lot of time. A lot of things can happen inside this 2 years, a pandemic, among many other things. Do you keep in touch with your brothers from the Rascals? You know, do you guys share the success of the three of you have been achieving?
I talk to both of them every single day. Des is a little bit more busy, so I don't get to FaceTime him or like verbally communicate with him over the phone as much, but we still text every single day. We communicate through social medias every single day. Zach is one of the 2 first people I FaceTime every morning. And then there's also Myron Reed, who wasn't featured on Impact because he signed with MLW, but he is the 4th Rascal, and I keep in touch with him just as much as the others. We are a band of brothers, and it really shows you that like the family you choose, it's something beautiful, man. It really is. I wouldn't trade those guys for anything.
Let's move forward to what we are doing today. The X Division itself helped Mike Bailey. It's brilliant. There are a lot of talent that you can pick as a fight, as you know, you're a fighting champion, not only from Impact Wrestling, but Impact itself had a lot of alliances for example, with AAA. Is there any specific name with Impact Wrestling and any specific name from the alliances that Impact is currently working that you are interested in working with?
From the current roster, Crazy Steve is a person that I've spent a lot of time with in the locker room that I've never gotten to share a ring with, aside from one time it was a tag match. And again, it was one of those situations where there's so many guys out there that the amount of interaction is pretty minimal. So that's someone that I'd be excited to share a ring with in the near future if that opportunity were to present itself. And then from any of the alliances that Impact Wrestling currently has, one of the first names that stands out to me is Vikingo. I would love to share a ring with it, man. He had a match with Josh Alexander in Mexico City, I think like 2.5 years ago. That just blew the roof off the place. It was so insane. And I remember, like, have you ever seen the movie Ratatouille? There's a moment where this rat eats a little block of cheese and a grape at the same time, and fireworks go off in his brain. And while I was watching that match, I was getting all these crazy ideas of things that I could do if I were out there instead of Josh Alexander. So if I could pick a name, that'd probably be the first.
That's a huge name considering he's just got his US visa to work. So that's something that may happen in the future. If you allow me, I'm going to say something in Spanish really quick. Impact Wrestling presenta su próximo evento el 9 y 10 de diciembre, December 9th and 10 en Pembroke Pines, Florida. El evento se va a llamar Winter Warfare. Va a estar en el Charles Dodge Center en Pembroke Pines en Florida. 9 y 10 de diciembre. Boletos a la venta ahora mismo en Ticketmaster. En adición a esto, tienen otro evento súper importante y es el que todos también recordamos. También boletos a la venta en Ticketmaster. Es Hard to Kill. Sí, ese evento que tantas memorias nos trae, que tanta la piel de gallina nos pone, como uno dice, va a estar al aire el próximo 13 de enero, viernes 13 de enero, y el 14 tienen tapings también. Esto va a ser en Atlanta, Georgia, Florida, el 9 y 10 de diciembre. Georgia en Atlanta, el 13 y el 14 de enero. Ambos boletos disponibles en ticketmaster.com, which leads me to my next point. Obviously, we have Winter Warfare, but Hard to Kill is an event that, as an Impact fan, I follow every single time I can. Obviously, Winter Warfare is going to be huge, but Hard to Kill, it's that stake that everyone wants to taste a little bit of to see, what's going to happen. What can we expect from Trey Miguel on both, on Winter Warfare, but especially on Hard to Kill this January 13, 2023 in Atlanta, Georgia?
Without spoiling anything at all, what I can say about Winter Warfare is that a continuation of my shenanigans is more than likely going to continue because I'm having more fun than I ever have had. And for Hard to Kill, considering that it's on Friday the 13th, I'm a huge horror fan, and going hard on my pro wrestling gear is something I take a lot of pride in. I think that we might be seeing some kind of Jason Voorhees variation popping up, slashing and dashing, and I don't know. Maybe.
Dude, that's so freaking amazing. Before we go to our last question, I wanted to thank you so much for your time, and as well as the Impact Wrestling family for granting us a little bit of your time today. Last but not least, did you ever expected that this young kid that was sitting down on his home watching pro wrestling was going to be actually performing against the best in the world today? Like, do you ever expect that your career would have, take you to where you are situated today, like two-time X Division champion, facing the best talents in the world, naming talent that you actually can face, that that will actually have a reply. You have valuable, you have a valuable name inside the market, but you are one of those marquee names for Impact Wrestling that they're constantly trying to push their product out there. Like, do you ever expect this to happen this way?
Absolutely not. I remember the first indie show I'd ever gone to. This was my first introduction to where the journey starts, and it was in a barn with a dirt floor, and they had like this jet heater that just blasted fire out of it to try to heat this entire building. And just a locker room full of like guys that were either half trained or taught or learned their first bumps at not very serious wrestlers. And it doesn't go to say that they weren't good people or anything like that. They were some of my favorite people I ever met, but it was more of a hobby to them, or just something to do on a Saturday night once a month. And with that being like my first introduction to this, to see from my own eyes, I remember thinking that night, like, how is this ever going to happen? First off, I'm not even on these shows yet. How do you make it out of here? Like, this is going to suck. This isn't going to work. It's just not going to work. And here we are.
And it freaking worked.
It's the maddest thing in the world.
It worked, man. You are on top We congratulate you for that. We're always rooting for you. Let me say something in Spanish before we go. Todos los jueves a las 8 de la noche, Impact está disponible en Access TV y en la suscripción en el canal de YouTube de Impact Wrestling, desde $1 hasta $5 mensuales con Impact Insiders. Adquieran la suscripción, créanme, vale la pena cada segundo de su tiempo. Impact tiene también su mercancía en shopimpact.com o shopimpact.com para las t-shirts y diferentes mercancías. También la memorabilia disponible en ebay.com/Impact Wrestling. 9 y 10 de diciembre, Pembroke Pines en Florida. 13 de enero y 14 Atlanta, Georgia, Hard to Kill, ambos disponibles en Ticketmaster, todo disponible en Impact Plus y en Fight TV. Trey Miguel, el campeón de la División X, entre muchas otras superestrellas en acción. En Let's Wrap This Up en español, Trey Miguel y Michael Morales Torres para Lucha Libre Online, la marca número 1 de Pro Wrestling y Combat Sports en el mundo. Será hasta la próxima.